What's next, Burt?
Best Actor.
Who's been nominated?
Tony Franciosa, Tony Quinn.
They were Hollywood's ultimate frenemies, to towering stars who lit up the screen together but couldn't stand each other when the cameras stopped rolling. Burt Lancaster and Kirk Douglas became one of the most iconic duos of the Golden Age. Audiences adored their chemistry, but behind the smiles and firm handshakes was a rivalry brimming with jealousy, bruised egos, and power struggles. For decades, Hollywood whispered about their feud, but now, the truth comes out about why Burt Lancaster utterly hated Kirk Douglas. Burt Lancaster's life story reads like a Hollywood script itself. Born in 1913 in Harlem to a working-class Irish-American family, he grew up in a tough neighborhood where strength and grit were the only currency. By age 11, he was already running with street gangs, living a life of risk and survival. But fate intervened when he discovered gymnastics at a community center. That one discovery gave him discipline, confidence, and a physical presence that would eventually define him. His talent and athleticism led him to the circus, where he performed breathtaking acrobatic stunts with the Ringling Brothers. Suspended high above the crowd, Lancaster thrilled audiences nightly until a devastating trapeze injury in 1939 abruptly ended his circus career. As always, he refused to be defeated. He served in World War II, not only performing in morale-boosting shows, but also seeing real combat. Stories spread of his bravery under fire, which only added to the mythos of a man who was both entertainer and soldier. When the war ended, Lancaster drifted back into civilian life, unsure of what was next until Broadway, and then Hollywood came calling. His breakout role came in The Killer's 1946, where he played the doomed Swede. Audiences were captivated by his combination of raw strength, deep vulnerability. Almost overnight, he became one of the most sought-after stars in Hollywood. From swashbuckling action roles to intense dramas, Lancaster quickly proved he wasn't just another muscular leading man, he was a serious actor with depth. And he demanded control of his career, co-founding his own production company, something unheard of at the time. He wanted to pick his own projects, and he wasn't afraid to take risks, whether in Sweet Smell of Success or his Oscar-winning role in Elmer Gantry. But then came Kirk Douglas. The two first worked together, I Walk Alone 1947. Both were young, ambitious, and determined to dominate Hollywood. On screen, their differences made sparks fly. Lancaster was rugged and unpredictable, while Douglas was precise and technical. Directors loved the tension because it created electric performances. But off-screen, those sparks often turned into real clashes. Fights over fight scenes, endless retakes, and constant one-upmanship became the norm. Their partnership reached its peak in Gunfight at the OK Corral 1957. Lancaster played the stoic Wyatt Earp, while Douglas was the fiery Doc Holliday. Their dynamic mirrored real-life, measured, calm versus volatile intensity. The result was cinematic gold, but the rivalry behind the scenes was heating up. At one fan event, Lancaster made a casual joke about Douglas's height. What Lancaster thought was harmless cut Douglas deeply, exposing a lifelong insecurity. From then on, the friendship was fragile at best, their working relationship always teetering between admiration and resentment, and yet, they couldn't stay apart. They reunited in 7 days in May 1964, this time with a more mature dynamic. They weren't just two young men trying to outshine each other anymore, they were seasoned veterans who knew how to channel that rivalry into powerful performances. Decades later, they would team up one last time in Tough Guys 1986, a nostalgic nod to their long history. By then, much of the bitterness had mellowed into mutual respect. Still, that edge never fully disappeared. Even in old age, audiences could feel the spark of their complicated friendship. Away from Douglas, Lancaster built one of the most remarkable careers in Hollywood. He wasn't afraid to reinvent himself, taking on complex roles in films like Birdman of Alcatraz, Judgment at Nuremberg, and the Italian epic The Leopard. In later years, he stunned critics again with subtle, deeply human performances in Atlantic City, Local Hero, and even the small but unforgettable role of Moonlight Graham in Field of Dreams. Lancaster proved that he wasn't just a star, he was an artist who could capture both grandeur and quiet humanity with equal power. His personal life was as dramatic as his career. Lancaster married 3 times, had 5 children, and was the subject of endless rumors and gossip about his affairs and even his sexuality. Yet he kept much of his private life guarded. What he didn't hide was his activism. He marched with Martin Luther King Jr. during the Civil Rights Movement and was outspoken in his progressive politics, so much so that the Nixon administration placed him on its enemies list. Unlike many Hollywood stars, Lancaster wasn't afraid to use his fame to fight for what he believed in. By the end of his life, Lancaster's health declined. A massive stroke in 1990 left him debilitated, and he passed away in 1994 at the age of 80. But his legacy lived on not only in his unforgettable films, but also in the way he redefined what it meant to be a Hollywood leading man. He was athletic yet intellectual, charming yet fearless, private yet politically outspoken. And at the center of his story was that lifelong rivalry with Kirk Douglas, a feud that drove them apart, but also made them one of the most compelling duos in Hollywood history. So, what do you think about Burt Lancaster and his feud with Kirk Douglas? Was it rivalry, respect, or both? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more untold Hollywood stories.